How do you deal with that as a family?
Well, we don't, in many respects, need to deal with it.
Royal family scandals rarely get darker than this. Princess Anne, Britain's toughest royal, has spent decades turning cold silence into a weapon cutting down future kings, beloved royals, and even her own brother. These are the 7 royals who endured her ruthless rejection. Who tops the list? And who felt her most brutal wrath? Stay with us, you don't want to miss this. Number 7. Prince Harry. On April 17, 2021, inside Windsor Castle, the world watched as Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, was laid to rest at St. George's Chapel, a site steeped in royal history. Since the 1400s, that day was meant to unify the Windsors. It was a moment for them to set aside quarrels and grieve together. Instead, it became the stage for Princess Anne's coldest rebuke. While cameras focused on Harry's strained reunion with William, sharp-eyed observers caught something far more chilling. Anne refused to acknowledge Harry at all. No glance, no nod, nothing. Her silence was deafening. For royal watchers, it was a declaration. Harry was no longer part of her world. The tension had been building weeks earlier. On March 7, 2021, Harry and Meghan's explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey reached over 17 million viewers in the U.S. alone. They spoke of racism, isolation, and cruelty inside the palace. For Princess Anne, this was a direct assault on the code she had lived by all her life. Her brothers had seen their share of headlines, but Anne had always chosen another path: discipline, duty, and silence. For her, those values weren't optional. They were the only way to shield the crown. So when Harry went public with family wounds, she didn't see it as a mistake. She saw it as betrayal. That betrayal only deepened 2 years later. 2023, Harry's memoir Spare exploded into bookstores, selling over 1.4 million copies in just 24 hours. The success ensured the revelations could not be ignored. Though Anne's name barely appeared, Harry's damning portraits of Charles, Camilla, William only fueled her disgust. But instead of arguing, scolding, or mediating, Anne deployed her signature tactic: total silence. She cut him off completely. For decades, this had been her way of dealing with relatives who fell short of her standards. And this time, her icy treatment of Harry wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. A warning to the entire monarchy: break royal silence, and not even blood will save you. If that shocked you, brace yourself, because what comes next makes the story even wilder. Number 6. Meghan Markle. Long before Meghan became tabloid gold, Princess Anne had already measured her with the precision of a veteran royal. According to Lady Colin Campbell, Anne's judgment was immediate and ruthless. Meghan, she declared, was a blatant operator. With a short shelf life inside the monarchy, these weren't idle whispers. Insiders recall one especially tense meeting in 2017, months before Harry and Meghan's engagement. Anne reportedly made it clear the monarchy was no stage for stardom, but a lifelong duty that demanded sacrifice and anonymity. By then, Anne had completed more than 20,000 engagements and earned her reputation as the hardest-working royal. She had zero patience for celebrity theatrics. Her message to Meghan was blunt: service before self, duty before drama. But Meghan, used to red carpets and American celebrity culture, left that meeting stunned. She expected polite formality. Instead, she met Anne's brutal frankness, what palace staff called her royal quality control: precise, unsentimental, and merciless. Anne's warning wasn't vague either. She reportedly told Harry outright not to marry Meghan, predicting she couldn't withstand the suffocating discipline of royal life. For Anne, it wasn't about personal dislike, it was an institutional calculation. And time proved her right. By January 2020, less than 2 years after their fairy tale wedding at St. George's Chapel, Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back from royal duties. Their Oprah interview only confirmed Anne's fears. In her eyes, Meghan brought Hollywood's spotlight into an institution that survived only on silence and duty. For Anne, rejecting Meghan wasn't petty. It was survival instinct. The monarchy, she believed, could not coexist with celebrity culture. That revelation turned heads, but the next entry pushes the story into an even more shocking light. Can you guess who it is? Number 5. Princess Diana. June 1981. just weeks before the wedding the whole world was waiting for. Diana Spencer, only 19, was still learning how to transition from shy nursery teacher to royal bride. Entering the nursery at Windsor Castle, she carried herself with nerves and humility, expecting warmth. What she received instead was humiliation. Diana curtsied deeply before Anne. Following centuries of royal protocol, she expected at least a nod or smile. But Anne, then 30 and already hardened by decades of public duty, looked straight past her. No acknowledgement, no kindness. Witnesses recalled how Diana ran from the room in tears. It wasn't just cruel, it was the beginning of what insiders later described as Anne's campaign of withering disdain. She dismissed Diana as a silly girl, incapable of handling the demands of royal life. June 24, 1981. Anne's disdain was a brutal counterweight to Diana's rising global popularity. Her scorn came from deep philosophical differences. Anne had lived her entire life under the strict discipline of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, completing hundreds of engagements each year without complaint. By 1981, she had already toured over 30 countries, earning her reputation as the hardest-working royal dot to her. Diana's emotional openness wasn't refreshing, it was reckless, a betrayal of the monarchy's code of stoicism. The contrast was stark. Anne was pragmatic, private, and reserved. Diana was expressive, empathetic, and unafraid to reveal her humanity. The public adored Diana for it. But for Anne, that imbalance cut deep. While Diana made front-page headlines for a single hospital visit, Anne's relentless schedule barely reached the back pages. That quiet sense of rivalry never truly faded, even though Anne never voiced it publicly. And when Diana died in Paris on August 31, 1997, Anne stayed true to her pattern. She gave no public tribute, just as she had offered little warmth in Diana's lifetime. For many, her silence said everything, a lasting reminder of her disapproval. Already seen some powerful names, but the next one takes things even further. Number 4. Queen Camilla. Anne's animosity toward Camilla traces back over 50 years to London's high society in the late 60s and early 70s. At the center of it all was a dashing cavalry officer, Andrew Parker Bowles. Handsome, well-connected, and described as one of Britain's most eligible bachelors. Andrew moved in the same social circles as both Anne and Camilla Shand. By 1970, gossip swirled that he was romantically linked to both women. Anne's feelings for Andrew, though rarely spoken of, were genuine. He was considered a serious contender as a royal husband until protocol intervened. As a Catholic, Andrew was barred as a potential spouse for the daughter of the Supreme Governor of the Church of England. When Andrew married Camilla on July 4, 1973, Anne's quiet heartbreak hardened into something lasting: contempt for the woman who had taken the man she could never have. What might have been a forgotten chapter of youthful rivalry resurfaced decades later when Camilla re-emerged in the 90s as Prince Charles's long-term companion. Anne's disdain returned, sharper than ever. Her disapproval wasn't just emotional. For Anne, Camilla represented everything she despised: scandals, personal betrayals, and the triumph of desire over duty. That quiet tension finally surfaced publicly during King Charles III's coronation in May 2023. The world noticed the distance between the two. Women, Camilla's title shifted from Queen Consort to Queen Camilla, but Anne's expression remained icy throughout. She carried out her ceremonial role, flawlessly, even serving as gold stick in waiting. Yet she made one bold choice. She refused to curtsy to Camilla. In royal protocol, this was no small oversight. It was deliberate, a rejection that spoke louder than words, adding fuel to the intrigue. Anne has remained close friends with Andrew Parker Bowles, now in his 80s, who attended the coronation, seated just rows away from Camilla. Observers couldn't miss the contrast: warmth toward Andrew, visible frost toward his wife. That triangle still lingers in palace corridors, a ghost from the past. Anne's coldness toward Camilla is powerful because it blends personal history with public principle. To Anne, Camilla personifies selfishness, triumphing over duty for a princess raised on discipline. That remains unforgivable. Number 3. Prince William. One of Anne's most surprising resentments isn't aimed at a distant cousin or scandalous in-law. It's directed at Prince William himself, the heir to the throne, to the public. William looks impeccable, composed, serious, polished, but behind closed doors, Anne reportedly views him with quiet frustration. She believes he has not fully embraced the daily grind of responsibility that defines true royal duty. Since the 1970s, Anne has presided over countless ceremonies at Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and Holyrood. In 2022 alone, she carried out over 430 engagements, more than any other royal, including the king. By comparison, William's role in investitures and day-to-day ceremonies has been sporadic. Now in her 70s, Anne can still manage 3 ceremonies in a single week. William, meanwhile, often delegates or focuses on high-profile initiatives like the Earthshot Prize or mental health campaigns. While popular with the public, Anne reportedly views these as celebrity activism, flashy. Philip's philosophy monarchy is hard work, not performance. Philip often described royal life as bloody hard work and absorbed that ethos completely. To her, William's selective approach, choosing visibility over reliabilities, is a dangerous misunderstanding of responsibility. The numbers prove her point. In 2019, before the pandemic, Anne completed 506 engagements. William managed less than half. To Anne, this wasn't just a statistic, it was a warning sign. The monarchy, she believes, survives not on occasional grand speeches, but on the unglamorous, daily grind of service. Palace insiders describe Anne's disappointment as quiet but unmistakable. She never scolds publicly. That would break her rule of discretion. And duty, asterisk for Princess Anne, the choice is clear. Traditions must be upheld. From her perspective, Prince William still has a long road ahead before he can shoulder the full responsibilities of the crown. We've uncovered some shocking rivalries already, but the next one may be the most unforgettable yet. Ready to hear. Number 2. King Charles, Princess Anne's longest and most calculated feud, wasn't with an in-law or distant cousin. Their rivalry, stretching over 5 decades, wasn't simple sibling tension. It was an institutional Cold War, waged through work ethic, duty, commanded the spotlight. Anne was relegated to ribbon cuttings and school visits. Friends later recalled her irritation at being treated like a decorative. In the 1976 Montreal Olympics, to play second fiddle to what she saw as her brother's dithering must have stung. Anne's philosophy was crystal clear. Duty is a job, not a performance. While Charles agonized over the monarchy's future, often retreating into introspection, Anne threw herself into relentless action. In 1974, she survived an armed kidnapping attempt in London, refusing to leave her car and emerging a national heroine. Charles, meanwhile, was portrayed in the press as fragile. The contrast was undeniable. Charles was consumed by scandal first, the collapse of his marriage. Anne, by comparison, was quietly completing 400 to 500 engagements a year. From investitures at Buckingham Palace to tireless charity visits, she became the embodiment of the motto, never complain, never explain. In 1991, Anne carried out 570 official engagements, nearly doubled Charles's count for royal watchers. The statistics were proof. Anne looked like the stronger candidate. Ideology drove them further apart. Charles leaned toward modernizing the monarchy, embracing environmental causes and public vulnerability. Anne, firmly molded by her father, Prince Philip, saw this as weakness, disguised as progress. For her, emotional transparency eroded royal dignity. Today, their relationship is outwardly professional, but undeniably cool. Insiders say Anne respects Charles's crown, but not his methods. Her loyalty is to the institution, not to her brother. And in her eyes, his reign proves one eternal truth. Titles may be inherited, but respect must be earned. And that brings us to the most surprising target of all. Number 1, Cherie Blair. Among all of Princess Anne's legendary feuds, none embodied the clash between tradition and modernity more brutally than her treatment of Cherie Blair, wife of Prime Minister Tony Blair. What could have been a cordial working relationship instead turned into a masterclass of aristocratic frost. The sparks began in the mid-1990s. Shortly after Tony Blair became Labour leader in 1994, at an early Buckingham Palace reception, Sherry, then a respected barrister in Queen's Counsel, extended a casual courtesy, suggesting Anne call her by her first name. In that moment, Anne drew a line thicker than any protocol manual could. Bloodlines mattered more than merit. The tension only escalated. Anne delivered what political insiders still describe as one of the most calculated public snubs in royal history. Before visiting dignitaries and top officials, she deliberately turned her back on Sherry during formal introductions, leaving her invisible in the room. Cut deep. Unlike previous prime ministerial spouses who faded into the background, she refused to. Even after Tony's landslide 1997 victory, Sherry continued her legal career, argued high-profile cases, and in 2000 became the first serving prime minister's wife in over a century to give birth. Her independence, her egalitarian outlook, her refusal to play the silent political spouse. The Blair years pushed Cool Britannia, a vision of a modern, celebrity-friendly nation. For Anne, who was logging over 450 engagements annually by the early 2000s, every cold glance, every withheld courtesy was her reminder that monarchy must remain aloof, untouchable, permanent, while prime ministers, no matter how powerful or fleeting. Royal aides tried to smooth things over. Anne never budged. Her icy stance hardened into symbolic warfare, a princess defending centuries of hierarchy. Against the creeping tide of democratic informality, Anne's treatment of Sherry Blair wasn't simple rudeness. It was strategy, a message that, in her eyes, elected power rises and falls, but royalty endures. So now we ask, which of these feuds shocked you the most? Was Anne right to cut people off? Do you believe her ruthless silence safeguards the monarchy, or does it quietly tear the royal family apart? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Click the next video showing on your screen.